Hey my friends, welcome back. It's Deb from Bowl Me Over. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to start a new series, and this is something my husband's been telling me to do for the longest time, and I think he's right. But I have a superpower, and my superpower is remaking leftovers. I don't like to eat the same thing day after day after day. And so oftentimes when I make something the next day, I turn it into something different. And I thought, I have been convinced that this would be a good thing to share with you, and I'm pretty sure he's right. He's a pretty smart guy. So I wanted to start this today, and with St. Patrick's Day right around the corner, I think my timing's perfect. I was going through the freezer, and lo and behold, there was corned beef in the freezer. It was old. It was really old. But you know what? It wasn't freezer burnt, so I thawed it, popped it in the crock pot on Saturday, and today I was like, I don't want to have corned beef sandwiches again. What else can I make with it? And I thought it'd be a perfect timing for us to get together and for me to show you how you can take a simple meal like corned beef and cabbage and turn it into something completely different. So come on in, let's get started. And I have my oven off to the side, or my hot plate here. It's going to be a little loud, but I'm going to heat that up first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our corned beef and cabbage, which is right here, and turn it into a yummy meal, which will be corned beef hash. There's a dozen different things you can make with it. I could make soup, I could make corned beef, like all the things, but I thought this would be really yummy because it's something you can do not just with corned beef, but roast beef as well. If you don't have potatoes, you could use sweet potatoes. It's very versatile. So let's get started. Let me show you how easy this will be to make, and we'll have a whole different meal when we're done. Okay, I wanted to take a quick break and just grab my gloves. And what we have here are the leftovers. There's a lot of potatoes, there's some carrots and cabbage, and a good amount of corned beef as well. And what I want to start with is my nice hot pan. I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil in there, and a touch of butter as well. The butter will give it flavor. I'll kind of talk through like the reasoning behind I do all these things, but the butter's going to give it flavor. The olive oil allows you to heat the butter to a higher temperature before it burns or browns. And the reason we want to do that is because I want, we're talking potatoes here. There's not a lot of flavor in potatoes. So every little bit's going to count with this. And I just have some, in this dish, I just used baby potatoes, those little tiny ones that you can get. And I'm just dicing them. If they're a little bigger, I might cut them in half a couple of times. But I'm just dicing them into a small dice. And into the skillet they go. So I thought this would be a good one to start with. And actually, this is kind of silly, but the very first blog post on the blog was how to make hash. You can find it. In fact, I'll link it below. The pictures are ugly. Probably the description's horrible. But I've never wanted to touch it because it was my first blog post that I ever did. I'm pretty proud of that. And the reason, even though these potatoes are cooked, I'm putting them in first, because I wanted to get that nice little crusty edges and stuff. That's always so good. I have a couple other things other than our leftovers here, and that is, you see the bell peppers. I always finish corned beef with either spinach or parsley. Today I have parsley, so that's sitting off to the side as well. All right. Okay. Potatoes are in. I'm going to give them a stir. And they're already starting to brown up just a little bit. So into the skillet, when I make hash, I always use bell peppers because they add such a nice freshness and a little bit of sweetness as well. You know, if you didn't have peppers, let me think here, you could use cabbage, which we're going to use anyway because we have that as leftovers. Eggplant. I would normally use onions if I was just making hash, but the leftovers have some onions in it as well. So you can it's kind of a potpourri of everything. But that's okay, because this is really yummy when it's done. I'm just dicing everything in small bite-sized pieces. And the beauty of remaking your leftovers also, of course, maybe you don't want to eat the same thing every day, but what about if you had maybe unexpected company come by and you had just enough for, you know, you and your hubby, or you and your hubby and kids, and another person came by. You know, it's like learning what to make with your leftovers so you're not wasting them or tossing them is huge. Money saver and time saver. You know, you're not going to the grocery store again. Okay. So today, when I'm done with this, I'm splitting this with my folks. I'm taking a meal down to mom and dad. So a bell pepper is something I usually keep in the refrigerator. So this is a really good use of that. You know, and I think too, as our series progresses, we'll talk about what to keep for a well-stocked pantry as well. So just about done here. There we go. And get these in here. First of all, doesn't that look gorgeous? Super colorful. I'm going to turn it down. I started it off like on a medium high, and I'm going to turn it down to medium heat. Because we want everything to, like the potatoes are cooked, but we want them to sear. The bell peppers won't take long to sear at all. So next up, and this is totally optional, is cabbage. And again, I'm just making the most of my leftovers here. And this was just your typical yummy Crockpot corned beef and cabbage, but so we have, and it was just Dan and I, so there was quite a bit of leftovers. Oops, like a spare potato in there. And the beauty of throwing everything in the pot as well is going to be that it's going to grab those flavors. I'm not going to have to put a whole lot of seasoning in here because corned beef is really salty, as you may know, but it's also going to add a ton of flavor. See, that's a pretty full skillet. And it is just cooking away. I love this meal. It's one of my favorites. I usually serve it with, depending on who wants what, a scrambled egg or a over easy egg on top. Delicious. Maybe some sriracha or hot sauce on top of that. So good. Okay, I have some carrots too. So I think I'm going to dice them up next. And again, I just want to keep everything in nice bite-sized chunks. And with the cabbage that was in there was also some onions. So that's perfect. And look at that pretty, colorful meal. That's gonna be good. All right, little other potato, more onions, a little more cabbage. Okay. They keep hiding in here. Okay, so next up, the corned beef, and it was so good. Great sandwiches, but I'm tired of sandwiches, so it's time for a transformation. The corned beef, like to stretch it a little bit more, I'm gonna dice it up pretty small, about a 1/2-inch dice. By searing the corned beef too, if there's any fat, you know, I cut off pretty much all the super fatty stuff because that's not me. But by searing the beef well, as you know, in the pan here with all the other goodies, it renders that fat off. And as it renders the fat, it spreads that, you know, fat equals flavor. That's what I always say. It spreads the flavor into the rest of the vegetables in the meal. So again, not a lot of spicing I need to do here. There's certainly, I don't need to add any salt. This is plenty salty on its own. Just look at this. Doesn't that look amazing? And I took something that was like just leftovers, that was nothing special, and turned it into a whole new meal. Okay, so let's let that do its thing for a minute. And I'm gonna clean up my workspace. I'll be right back. For this particular recipe, I want more than steaming. I want to make sure it sears well. And you'll want to make sure it sears well too. And so we're letting it kind of cook and do its thing. I'm not stirring it all the time and moving it around. And we want that brown crusty edge on everything. That's what's gonna taste good in the long run. So while that's doing its thing, I have a quick tip for you. Parsley. I don't know if you use it very often, but when you bring it home from the store, if you take and clean it right away and then wrap it in a damp, or just a paper towel, you don't need to worry about even a damp paper towel because the dampness of the parsley that you rinsed will absorb in the towel. And anyway, if you do that right away when you bring it home, it'll last like 3 times longer, like easily 2 weeks. Easily 2 weeks in the refrigerator. Just want to take a portion of that. So what I do, this was dry when I put it in there when I came home from the store. And it's one of the staples that I always keep in the refrigerator because a little bit of parsley just like brightens everything up. So when I finish this meal, I just want to mince that parsley really good. And at the very end, I'm going to put the parsley in our skillet, give it a quick stir, and then just turn it off, let it do its thing. It just adds a lot of freshness to it. And that's one thing that keeps leftovers from tasting like leftovers. So I'm going to come around and get the camera because I think you need to see close up just how pretty this is. I'll be right there. Just look how bright and colorful that meal is going to be. We have a wonderful array. We have cabbage, onions, carrots, leftover. There's bell peppers in there, and certainly that corned beef. Doesn't that look delicious? So bright and colorful. Okay, guys, this has been simmering away for about 10 minutes. I'm going to add one last thing. There was some garlic in the corned beef, but I'm going to add a little extra anyway because it adds so much flavor. So about a teaspoon. Yes, I'm using jarred garlic. Shame on me. Blah, blah. Don't hate me for it. But it's going to add a lot of flavor. add that towards the end of cooking because garlic only takes about 30 seconds to cook. So we want to make sure it doesn't get browned because browned garlic tastes really bitter. So yeah. So now I want to give this just a tiny little taste before I add the parsley. I want to know if it needs anything. I want to know if it needs a little more salt, maybe some pepper, because potatoes, basically are bland. The pepper is super soft, so it's cooked through. Let's see how it tastes. Guys, that's really good. I'm glad I remembered to add some garlic because it added just a really nice little pop. I'm going to turn my heat off, which I can't remember how. So there you go. Now it's turned off. Turn my heat off. I'm going to add, that's why you always want to taste it first, probably about half a teaspoon of salt and a good amount of pepper. And my parsley. Parsley, again, it's going to give it that bright, fresh flavor. It's going to brighten up the whole meal. It's going to look really pretty too. And that's it. How to take your leftovers, completely transform them into a whole new meal. It's Deb from Bowl Me Over. We'll be doing this every Friday, so stay tuned and see what we make next.